When Harry Potter was about to turn 11 years old, he was living with his aunt and uncle who treated him like an outsider, favoring their own son, Dudley. Harry sleeps in a cramped closet under the stairs, and all he knows, the story he has, is that he's an orphan whose parents had died in a senseless car crash when he was a baby. Harry is not wanted. And then one night, everything changes. A half-giant named Hagrid appears and reveals to Harry that he is not simply an orphan with a tragic story, but rather he's a wizard, slated for wizarding school in the fall. And later in the story, Harry is talking with a wise old teacher named Dumbledore. Harry wants to know more of his own story, of what happened and who he is. And it's then in that conversation with Dumbledore that he learns that his parents did not die senselessly in a car crash after all. Rather, they died trying to save him from the evil wizard Voldemort, who had tried to kill him when he was a baby. Dumbledore explains, "Your mother tried to save you. If there is one thing Voldemort cannot understand, it is love. He didn't realize that love as powerful as your mother's for you leaves its own mark, not a scar, no visible sign. To have been loved so deeply, even though the person who loved us is gone, will give us some protection forever. It is in your very skin." This is a transformative moment for Harry. Suddenly, he's no longer an unwanted orphan, an unwelcomed outsider. He has a new identity now. He's someone who, from his earliest days, has been deeply loved, protected, cherished, even though he'd known nothing about it. Today's gospel follows a similar dynamic. Jesus goes up on a mountain to be closer to God and to see people from that higher perspective. From there, he can see more than what meets the physical eye. He sees that they are blessed. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed are the meek. Blessed are they who hunger and thirst for justice. He's referring to those who are caught up in a corrupt system, being ground up by it, whose poverty goes so deep it crushes their spirits. They become poor in spirit, and it reduces them to a constant state of mourning. He understands the terrible toll this social reality takes on their bodies, on their souls, on their families. But he also spies at the center of their struggle a blessedness. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are the meek. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for justice. The rhythm here is striking. Blessed, 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 blessed. This blessedness is given by God, so it is more powerful than the social political system that overwhelms them. This blessedness enables people to lean into life, to withstand whatever the world throws at them. This blessedness is constantly at work, moving mourning toward comfort, meekness toward inheritance, hunger and thirst toward satisfaction. And this blessedness has your name on it. This reading is your Harry Potter moment that, if you let it, redefines and transforms you. this dawning realization of who you really are, that you are blessed, made in the image of God with an infinite beauty and dignity, a power and strength that no one can take from you. This blessedness is yours in every moment, but especially when things fall apart, when coming up short trying to pay the bills, or when you get bad news from the doctor, or grieve the loss of the one you love the most. Blessed, 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 blessed. Can you get into this gospel's rhythm? Let it seep into the marrow of your bones, especially into those corners of your life where God seems most absent. Can you pick up the refrain, announcing this blessedness not only to yourself, but to your fellow parishioners in their struggles and to the larger community we're part of? Can you let yourself get swept up in this great work of blessing? Because it's not just you and I who could use a little blessedness right now, but so does our world. And I'm sure you know what I'm referring to. This is no ordinary time. Since the inauguration, the president has signed a cascade of executive orders that threaten the safety and lives of hundreds of thousands of people, refugees, immigrants, including right here in this neighborhood, Muslims, indigenous people, black people, and working people in need of health care. He has directed our government to construct a wall on our southern border, punish sanctuary cities like ours, facilitate the repeal of the Affordable Care Act, and construct pipelines despite the protests of indigenous people. And he has signaled more to come, including rolling back voting rights. Because of his order this past Friday, people fleeing from Syria, that war-torn Muslim country, are now being turned away in their greatest moment of need. Even despite yesterday's powerful protests at major airports and a partial stay of the president's order by a federal judge, this is a time of great cruelty and fear. I think of the fear that now runs through the entire immigrant community, both here and around the world. I think of my friend Ava, a domestic worker who fled here from Guatemala 25 years ago for her life and those of her kids. Ava works 60 hours a week cleaning homes and looking after children. She's raised her own kids here and now helps with her own grandkids, and she's afraid. Even before the election, she sent many of her clothes to family in Guatemala so that when President Trump deports her, she'll have what she needs to begin looking for a job to get her life back up and running again. The fear among our immigrant brothers and sisters right now is immense. And whether we like it or not, this is our context. It's in this moment that we are called to be a blessing, both in what we say and in what we do. And this context gives a whole new meaning to the work that we do here at St. John's every day. With a historic level of inequality that is likely to increase in the next few years, we continue to offer a quiet, dry, safe place for homeless people to sleep. And many in this neighborhood, right around here, right around St. John's, are running short of food, basic necessity, running short of food. You may remember the encampment we had along here on 15th Street just a couple of weeks ago. Each evening, the campers would share whatever food they had with anyone that needed it. They would invite passers-by to join them. Sometimes there were as many as 30 people lined up to get the food. Many of the people in line were not homeless, They came from the various SROs right here in the surrounding blocks, but they were short on food. Our food ministries, including the Julian Pantry and a twice-monthly free community dinner, are becoming all the more essential in these days of struggle for so many. With a law and order administration now in office, many understandably predict more police brutality against people of color. Our weekly vigils for a meal car in front of Mission Police Station and our night walks calling for an end to violence, including by the police, now take on a whole new urgency. As white nationalism and cries of America first increase, several of us are planning next year's trip to Nicaragua to join people in rural villages in the simple task of building latrines and providing safe, clean water. Many experts, many different flavors, say the world is much less safe now. The war drums are getting much louder again. Robert Cromie's vigils outside the federal building now become all the more necessary. And as people continue to flee the historic levels of gang and police violence in Central America, we are providing sanctuary for Mirza and Israel, two young people, both 18 years old, who fled for their lives, helping them now with practical needs like housing, food, and clothing, and committing ourselves to stand with them to resist any efforts by immigration to deport them back to the life-threatening situations they fled. And each week, this sacred space, with its noble and faded elegance, remains a home to so many others, from Native Americans celebrating their powerful and beautiful festivals to meditating Buddhists, from survivors of HIV to our friends from mission graduates. These are just some of the ways we try to be a blessing at this critical and perilous moment. And I haven't even alluded to the work that so many members of this community do in their professional and volunteer lives, in scholarship and the arts, in fundraising, political leadership, social work. And what makes sense of it all, what helps us all to keep our eye on the ball, is our weekly gathering right here, around this table. Because without this moment, none of it makes sense. Without this moment, none of it makes sense. It's here at this table that our lives and our own modest ministries begin to make sense, and that we come to see and understand with the eyes and the heart of Jesus. Because at the end of the day, this one question will remain for each one of us. Through it all, through all the political upheavals, the protests, the conversations with friends and foes, the victories, the disappointments, have our hearts become more like the heart of Jesus? Have we, through it all, become more like Jesus, full of more love, more compassion, more joy, more life? Let me close with this Epiphany blessing from Jan Richardson. There is so much I want to say, as if the saying could prepare you for this path, as if there were anything I could offer that would make your way less circuitous, more smooth. Once you step out, you will see for yourself how nothing could have made you ready for this road that will take you from what you know to what you cannot perceive, except perhaps in your dreaming, or as it gives a glimpse in prayer. But I can tell you This journey is not about miles. It is not about how far you can walk or how fast. It is about what you will do with this moment, this star that blazes in your sky, though no one else might see. So, open your heart to these shimmering hours by which your path is made. Open your eyes to the light that shines on what you will need to see. Open your hands to those who go with you, those seen and those known only by their blessing, their benediction of the road that is your own.